Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent Nintendo/gaming video for this week, for the week of January 31st to February 6th. And we got four parts to cover this week, including my thoughts on the Balan, B-A-L-A-N, Wonderworld demo that was just released for the Nintendo Switch, and I think it's also been released on other systems as well. Sony has recently released their financial report along with Nintendo.to, and a big bombshell from Google in regarding Stadia, mostly on the game development side. And I want to give my thoughts on the situation surrounding this, as some people have gone into panic mode while others aren't really gone into any panic mode at all. But before we get started, though, we'll do the quick My 2 Cent part. Stories that I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details, but do kind of caught my attention, all that stuff. We'll start off with the first one, which is that we now learn that Netflix officially has announced that they're doing a 3D animation called Sonic Prime, based on the Sonic the Hedgehog series. It will be very interesting to see how that one plays out and all that. Given how hopefully this won't be as successful as, say, like the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that was released last year, and also we'll see how that one goes. We also learned that the Outer Worlds DLC, Pearl on Gorgon, if I'm saying the name correctly, is now going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch on February 10th, along with a patch, which is patch 1.3. So that certainly is nice that we're finally getting the DLC for the Switch version of the Outer Worlds and all that stuff. I still don't think the Switch version is as bad as the internet makes it sound like it is, but I won't deny that it's far from being 100% perfect or anything like that. But either way, we're getting the DLC, which certainly is a good thing. We learned that Apex Legends will be coming to the Nintendo Switch on March 9th, and we have also learned how apparently Panic Button will be handling the Switch port and all that stuff. It'll be very interesting to see how well this one does, and whether or not this will convince EA to probably put more support into the Switch or not. I have my doubts, but hey, I could be wrong. But in either case, if you're waiting for Apex Legends on the Nintendo Switch, it will be coming out on March 9th. We also learned basically of a rumor going around that basically, if you remember the whole rumor about Netflix doing a Zelda series based on a live action one, sort of like the claim it's Game of Thrones but in a more family friendly approach. Well, there's a report coming out that Nintendo canceled the Zelda Netflix series and a supposedly clay animation starring Star Fox after supposedly the whole thing leaked and all that stuff. It is a little unfortunate to hear it getting canceled and all that stuff, but I'm not sure a live-action Zelda series would have worked or anything like that. I mean, look at how well Castlevania has done on Netflix, though, as an animation, like a cartoon and animation. Though I think it would have been better to take that route than a live-action route and all. But either way, if this rumor is true, though, it has apparently been unfortunately, it looks like we're not going to see a live-action Zelda or clay animation starring the Star Fox crew and all that. We learned that the director of Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Blind Forest basically criticized a lot of the folks behind Fable, Cyberpunk, and No Man's Sky, calling them, snake oil salesmen and all. However, that has led to some criticism against the Ori developer, who, as some people criticized, that their games weren't stable or running properly, and supposedly he later written an apology and all. So some people agree with him, some people don't. There's sort of different views on the whole situation. We also learned that the director of the upcoming Mass Effect trilogy, or the Legendary Edition, though, would love to see the Mass Effect Edition come to the Nintendo Switch and all. Supposedly these games ran on Unreal Engine 3 and that. Personally, I would love to see the Mass Effect trilogy come to the Nintendo Switch 1, 2, and 3. But having said that, though, I'm going to lower my expectations on this, because this is EA we're talking about. EA, unfortunately, has a history of, well, let's just say they've had a long history of giving Nintendo fans, and particularly Nintendo, the middle finger. It started with the Wii U, and it somewhat has continued with the Nintendo Switch, as their main focus has been, you know, the whole recurring user spending, monetization. Of course, we all know what happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the whole controversy with that, though. I mean, so I just don't have a lot of hope that the Mass Effect Legendary Edition will come to the Nintendo Switch. I could be wrong, though, but again, this is EA, so I don't have a huge amount of hope on it, though, which is really a shame, because I think games like the Mass Effect trilogy, Dragon Age 1, 2, and Inquisition, and even the Dead Space trilogy, I think would be a perfect fit for the Nintendo Switch. But this is EA we're talking about, so I would say I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not holding my breath on seeing the Mass Effect trilogy come to the Nintendo Switch. We also learned that a Swedish company, Embracer, which owns THQ Nordic, has recently purchased the Borderlands developers Gearbox Software for about supposedly at least $35 billion, or I believe, or 1.35. I think it's 35 billion, possibly. I'm not 100% sure on the price point, though. So it's kind of interesting to see seeing Gearbox be purchased. It will be really interesting to see what the future holds. It also will be really interesting if Randy Pitchford, the famous, you know, Alien Colonial Marine controversy guy, is still going to be working with Gearbox after this purchase or not, though. And last but not least, we learned that some of the investors, those who took part in the whole GameStop, you know, the Wall Street bet thing, the whole Wall Street bet situation, though, apparently it seems as though now they are helping, basically going to help donate switches to children's hospitals and all that stuff, doing sort of a charitable thing, which is nice. As far as the whole GameStop Wall Street bet situation, after reading a whole bunch of the stories and all that stuff, I sort of come to this sort of conclusion to it, though. Regardless of whether you agree with the Wall Street bet or not, regardless of whether you think they did the right thing or the wrong thing, there's really nothing illegal what they did or anything like that. Yes, you could argue this is a very risky thing that they did, though, and make no mistake, people have lost money on this, though. I'm not saying, don't deny the fact that people have made money, though, but people have lost money and all. But unless there's evidence that emerged that points to these guys, or these folks who took part of Wall Street bet and all, unless there's something there like they committed something illegal, like insider trading, or stole people's money to do this, or committed fraud, I can't see what they did was illegal and all. In fact, if anything, this is sort of like something out of the 80s movie Trading Places, where Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray's character, Winslow and Valentine's, basically screwed over the Duke brothers, which in this case, it's basically a whole bunch of Winslow and Valentine's screwed over a whole bunch of the Duke brothers, though. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Nintendo, particularly with their financial report, though. Now, last week we learned about Microsoft, and they put out their financial report, and despite the Xbox Series S and X seem to be having a hard time finding it, though, although, like I said, I had an easier time finding the S than you would with the X, though. That doesn't mean it's impossible to find it, though, but when I pre-ordered it, though, I had a much easier time getting the S, though. Anyway, though, now we have Nintendo releasing their financial report, and ever since the Switch came out in 2017, it's been sort of very positive news for Nintendo, and the Switch has certainly been a major hit with Nintendo, and it seems as though it's still going on despite the release of Microsoft's Xbox Series S and X and the PS5. According to several articles, this one from IGN, it reads, says, quote, Nintendo Switch console sales have passed 3DS. Animal Crossing New Horizon has sold 31 million copies, and it's catching up to Mario Deluxe's 33.41 million units sold. It reads that, quote, Nintendo has announced as of December 31st, 2020, the Nintendo Switch has officially passed the 3DS with 79.87 million consoles units sold, somewhat shy from the 80 million that some people thought it was going to sell though. Furthermore, Animal Crossing New Horizon has reached 31.18 million copies sold. As revealed in Nintendo's latest financial earnings release for the 9-month period ending December 31st, 2020, Animal Crossing is getting even closer to passing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe 33.41 million units sold as the best-selling Nintendo Switch game. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is the third best-selling Switch game with 22.85 million units sold, followed by The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild with 21.45 million units, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield with 20.35 million units sold, and Super Mario Odyssey with 20.23 million units sold. Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield has also become the first Pokemon game to sell over 20 million units since Pokemon Gold and Silver. During the 9 months ending December 31st, 2020, titles revealed in the fiscal year beginning on April 1st, 2020 saw a ton of success. Super Mario 3D All-Stars sold 8.32 million units. Paper Mario, the Origami King, sold 3.5 million units. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity sold 2.84 million units. Pikmin 3 Deluxe sold 1.94 million units, and Mario Kart Live Home Circuit sold 1.8 million units though. Games released in the previous fiscal years also continue to sell well these 9 months, led by Animal Crossing New Horizon with 19.41 million units. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold 8.64 million units. Ring Fit Adventure sold 5.95 million units. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sold 4.4 million units. And Super Smash Bros. Ultimate sold 4.1 million units. 29 Nintendo Switch titles sold over 1 million copies, including 9 games from other software publishers. Nintendo Switch hardware sales reached 24.10 million units in this time period, which is a 35.8% increase year on year, and software sales reach 176.10 million units, which is a 43% increase year on year. It's also interesting to note that the Nintendo Switch Lite has sold 13.53 million units in its lifetime, meaning it's close to passing the Wii U's 13.56 million units though. Digital sales also account for 40.9% of all software sales, which is a 12.3% increase year on year. Digital sales also saw an increase to 104.9% when compared to 2019. Mobile and IP related income saw an increase to 13.8% year on year. While we don't know Nintendo's full plan for 2021, we do have Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, Monster Hunter Rise, new Pokemon Snap, and Bravely Default 2 to look forward in the next couple of months. So obviously, the Switch, despite the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and S launching, though, it seems to be doing very well for a system that came out in 2017, though. It's great to see some of these games are doing extraordinarily well. There's no doubt about that the Switch has been a huge success for Nintendo. It's going to be really interesting to see going further down the line how well it will do as we start seeing, the PS5 and the Xbox Series S start finding homes, considering right now it's kind of difficult with the whole issue with scalpers and all that stuff. So it's going to be really interesting, and whether or not there will be pressure to the point where Nintendo may have to release a more powerful version of the Nintendo Switch, aka a Switch 2 or Switch Pro. But for right now, it does seem Nintendo is doing very well and all that stuff. As far as a Switch 2 or Switch Pro, though, Nintendo made an interesting comment that they made, though, that doesn't completely shut the door entirely in regards of a newer version of the Switch and all. In an article from Nintendo Life, it reads that, quote, Nintendo won't be announcing a new Switch model anytime soon. Focus is on Super Mario and Monster Hunter SKU in 2021. According to the article from Nintendo Life, again, links are in the description though, it reads, the Nintendo Switch has just overtaken the lifetime sales of the 3DS, selling an amazing 79.87 million units in the space of 4 years, thanks to titles like Animal Crossing New Horizon, which has sold over 31 million copies in less than a year. Nintendo's hybrid system is on course to be one of the most successful gaming platforms of all time, and this performance could well delay any plans to release a Switch Pro in the near future. The notion of a mid-cycle upgrade has been doing the rounds for quite some time, hardly a shock when you consider Nintendo's track record and the numerous rumors that have been floating around for many months. And while Nintendo denies means little, it will only announce it when it's ready. The wording of its latest comment on the matter is interesting. During a Q&A session following the company's latest financial for the 9 months ending December 31st, 2020, Nintendo was asked about a chance of seeing a new model this year. According to a post from, I think, Takahashi, Mochizuki, the question asked, though, new model this year, and the answer was not planning to make an announcement anytime soon, as we have a Mario version in February, Monster Hunter version in March. The article reads, though, it's perfectly understandable that Nintendo will want to nix all talks of an enhanced Switch when it's planning to launch 2 new cosmetic variations in the form of Super Mario and Monster Hunter Rise SKU, but not anytime soon. Is an interesting reply. It doesn't shut the door entirely, but it can hardly be seen as a smoking gun, which suggests a Pro model is inbound. Of course, there's also the very real possibility that Nintendo has delayed plans for a revised model in the light of the fact that the Switch and Switch Lite are showing no sign of losing momentum. Clearly realizing a new model now would make a very poor business sense. So obviously, and I do kind of agree with this though, it's not completely shutting the door on a Pro or Switch 2 or anything like that, but I don't disagree that right now, given where the momentum is with the Nintendo Switch, it doesn't sound like we're going to see a Pro or Switch 2 anytime soon. Now, it is possible after this cosmetic version with Super Mario and Monster Hunter are released, it's possible we might hear something maybe in June, or possibly maybe at some time in the fall. So it's certainly not out of the realm of the possibility, but at the same time, I can't dispute the fact that given where the Switch is currently right now, it may not happen at all. We may have to wait maybe another year or so, or for them to announce a Switch Pro or Switch 2 or anything like that. But as of right now, it doesn't sound like we're going to hear anything about a Switch 2 or Switch Pro at the moment. So overall, obviously the Switch is continuing to do very well for Nintendo. They are certainly making a lot of money with it though, and they're probably going to stick with the Switch design for a long time though. Whether they can keep that momentum going now that the Xbox Series X and S and the PS5's out remains to be seen. So I'll be taking a wait and see approach to see how this plays out. As far as the Switch Pro and Switch 2, while I don't deny the fact that I do think there will be a point in time where eventually Nintendo will have to do a major update with a Switch 2 and a Switch Pro, probably a more powerful version and all. I would say it sounds like we're not going to be hearing one anytime soon. So it's not a yes, but at the same time it's not a no either. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with regards of Stadia, and a report about in terms of Google closing down their first-party studios that has led to speculation of whether or not this is the end of Google Stadia. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a interesting announcement Google made in regards of Stadia's future, particularly on the game development side. Now, Stadia has been sort of controversial to some people. There are those who just outright hate the service, and there are those who do enjoy the service though. I got into Stadia once the free tier part came out, the one where you didn't have to subscribe to Stadia Pro and everything or anything like that. And having tried out Stadia myself, especially on my iMac and all, I will say that to me, the potential is certainly there. I definitely do see the potential in cloud gaming and all that stuff, but I also see at the same time there are hurdles that have to be overcome, and I can also understand the argument why some feel that this will go into the Google graveyard, where Google comes up with these ideas and don't always pan out as well as many people would have liked it to be. And of course, Stadia last year got attention in a somewhat positive way. They got criticism, including some of the comment one person said that sort of made Google distance himself from that person, but they also received positivity when the whole debacle of the mess surrounding Cyberpunk 2077 came out, where the PS4 and Xbox One version, well, pardon my language, from what I've heard, it ran like shit though. And yet, interestingly enough, the Stadia version was the one that got a lot of praise and all that stuff. I've been playing the Stadia version, and despite a few bugs here and there, a locker just flickering, some items floating and all that stuff, nothing I have experienced has done anything that made the game unplayable or anything like that though. So it was kind of interesting to hear this announcement when Google announced that they were going to be shutting down first-party studios, or at least their studios and all, which kind of surprised a lot of people though. Basically what happened was a post that was put up by Stadia from Google was from Phil Harris, from the Vice President and General Manager for Google Stadia. According to the post, it reads, quote, "We launched Stadia with the goal of making your favorite games instantly available whether you want to play them. With the recent successful launch of Cyberpunk 2077 on Stadia, gameplay of all type of devices including ISO, growing our state of YouTube integration and our global expansion, it's clear that Stadia technology has been proven and works at a scale," which I do agree. The potential certainly is there. Having games streamed to any screen is the future of this industry, and we continue to invest in Stadia and its underlying platform to provide the best cloud gaming experience for our partners and the gaming community. This has been the vision of Stadia since the beginning. In 2021, we expanded our effort to help game developers and publishers take advantage of our platform technology and deliver games directly to their players. We see an important opportunity to work with partners seeking a gaming solution, all built on Stadia's advanced technical infrastructure and platform tools. We believe this is the best path to build Stadia in a long-term, sustainable business that help grow the industry. Creating best in-class games from the ground up take many years and significant investment, and the cost is growing up explanatorily. Apologize, I'm not saying that name correctly. Given our focus on building on the proven technology of Stadia, as well as deepening our business partnerships, we decided we will not be investing further in bringing exclusive content from our internal development team, SG&E. I think that's Stadia's Game and Entertainment, beyond any near-term planning games. With the increased focus on using our technology platform for industry partners, Jade Raymond has decided to leave Google to pursue other opportunities. We greatly appreciate Jade's contribution to Stadia and wish her the best of luck in her future endeavor. Over the coming months, most of our SG&E teams will be moving on to new roles. We're committed to work with this talented team to find new roles and support them. What does this mean if you're a current or future Stadia gamer? You can continue playing all your games on Stadia and Stadia Pro, and we continue to bring new titles from third parties to the platform. We're committed to the future of cloud gaming, and we will continue to do our part to drive the industry forward. Our goal remains focused on creating the best possible platform for gamers and technologies from our partners, bringing these experiences to life for people everywhere, though. Now, the reaction on this has been mixed as best, and depending on who you're asking, some people don't think it's the end of the world, others do, and we've seen plenty of YouTubers that have come out and have made those statements before. Some might argue that these are doing it in the name of clickbait just to get views, but everyone has a different, that is certainly is, shall we say, debatable at least. Some folks like this article from The Verge has title saying that the writing's on the wall for Google Stadia, giving the impression that they believe that this is the end of Stadia, though. Others, like one from the Cloudy with a Chance of Game, the home for cloud gaming community, doesn't believe that Stadia is being shut down and all that stuff, and believes that Google is taking a different approach. My view on the matter is that although I'm going to take more of a wait and see approach to see how this all plays out, but I would say I'm leaning towards, I don't think Google is going to shut down Stadia. I don't think it is. I think one comparison, and I've heard this comparison before, is that they may be taking an approach kind of similar to what Valve's doing with Steam. Basically, just have a storefront, you could play these games, and if you have Stadia, you could play through Google Stadia and all that stuff. They'll probably allow Ubisoft to continue doing Ubisoft Plus, EA with EA Play, or maybe have any other similar if any developer decide to create something like Ubisoft Plus, they could do it through Stadia and all that stuff. So it sounds like they're taking that kind of approach. I don't personally think they're going to shut down Stadia, at least not at the moment, though. Is there the possibility they could do that? Is it possible we could see this join the Google graveyard? Yes, I won't deny that in any way. There's always that possibility we could see this join the Google graveyard. But if, based on how I'm reading it though, and again, my opinion on this, I don't think they're going to shut down Stadia. That said, it is a little unfortunate that they're shutting down their first-party studios. I certainly wish those who've been affected by this best of luck. I'm hoping you guys, those can find a new job and all that stuff. It's just that it would have been nice to see what their first-party games could be. Maybe they could have been good, maybe not. I mean, we've seen how Amazon has handled some of their game development, and that hasn't exactly gone very well and all that stuff. So it is a little bit unfortunate, though. Maybe Google will try again in developing games. Maybe once Stadia gets a better footing and all that stuff, maybe they'll take more like a publishing route instead, just publish games rather than develop games and all that stuff. So it's going to be really interesting to see what direction Stadia goes, though. So overall, I would say very much a surprise about their decision to shut down their first-party development, though. As for whether or not this is the end of Google Stadia, I would say, although, like I said before, although I'm taking a wait-and-see approach, I'm leaning towards the answer being no. I don't think Google is going to kill Stadia. I think they're going to take somewhat of a different route, but I don't think they will kill Stadia, though. Again, I could be completely wrong on this, and it may end up joining the infamous Google graveyard, but for now, I'm leaning towards no. Despite them shutting down their first-party studios, I don't think Google is going to kill Stadia. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with Sony releasing their financial report. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Sony, particularly that they have now released their official financial report, much like with Nintendo did and Microsoft, and it seems it's both good and bad. It seems as though the PS5 is certainly doing well, but at the same time, it sounds like Sony is also selling it at a loss too. In an article from Eurogamer, it reads that the PS5 has sold 4.5 million units, Sony has announced. It's an impressive figure for the supply-constrained console, which was released in November 2020 amidst the coronavirus pandemic. The sale figures accurate as of December 31st, 2020. It's roughly in line with the launch sale of the PS4 at the same point in its life, but it's worth noting demand for the PS5 has heavily outstripped supplies, and it remains out of stock at a raft of retailers who have faced trouble with scalpers and bots. I can't disagree with that. I've been having a hard time trying to find a PS5 and all. Sony says it's on track to sell over 7.6 million PS5 units by the end of its current fiscal year, March 31st, 2021. The hope is PS5 shipment will surpass the PS4 sales over its initial launch period to become the biggest console launch of all time. During its third quarter 2020 financial report issued this morning, Sony confirmed astonishing sales success, mainly due to the ongoing financial performance of its PlayStation brand and PlayStation business. Its game and network service division saw its best ever quarter, with revenue up to 40% year on year to 883.2 billion yen, 6.1 billion euros, or pounds in a way. Operating income profits was up to nearly 50% to 80.2 billion yen, 559 million, I believe, pounds. Well, again, this is from Eurogamer and all. That profit came despite the PS5 being sold at a loss, which Sony confirms overnight. Loss resulting from strategic price point for the PS5 hardware that was set lower than manufacturing costs. The money then was made from the profitable software sale. 103.7 million games were sold across the PS4 and PS5 in the quarter, and digital revenue from the likes of PlayStation Plus and DLC will continue to contribute vast swaths of cash. Some of the updated figures they point out is that Insomniac's Spider-Man Miles Morales has sold 4.1 million copies. For content, the predecessor Spider-Man has sold 13.2 million copies as of the end of July of 2019. PS Plus now has 47.4 million subscribers, up from the 45.9 million Sony reported at the end of September 2020. PlayStation Network now has 114 million monthly active users, up from the 108 million reported in the previous quarter. The PS4 Pro sold 1.4 million units during the third quarter, down from 6 million in the previous year. That decline is to be expected as the world moves on to the PS5. Sony is aiming to sell more than 14.8 million PS5s in the next fiscal year, which would be more than the number of PS4 shipped during its second year, but the company is facing a chip shortage that could hamper manufacturers. We expect PS5 high demand to continue into the next fiscal year, and we'll do our best to meet that demand. As one of the chief financial officers said in a news conference, though, and we will make effort to secure enough materials, though. So, on one hand, the PS5 is certainly doing well for Sony and all, but on the other hand, it's also contributed to them selling it at a loss, and VentureBeat has sort of pointed that out, though. It says, it reads that, quote, "The PS5 is off to a fast start for Sony Interactive Entertainment. The company reported its first quarter financial results since launched PS5 in November. As expected, the company sold a lot of hardware. It's making a lot of money when it comes to gaming. Sony doesn't have much holding back its profitability. Software sales are up, network sales are generating more revenues, but one of the pain points Sony did mention is the price of its new gaming consoles. The PS5 is selling at a loss. The loss results from the strategic price point of PS5 hardware that was set lower than the manufacturing cost, though. The PS5 is, $500, and the digital edition is $400. And while that's a lot of money, it's not enough to cover what it costs to produce the system. Now, the PS5 digital edition does drag down the average price of the PS5 overall. So that strategic price point is probably somewhere between $460 to $490. So the PS5 costs more than the product. It's not surprising that Sony is taking a loss on hardware. Microsoft confirmed it's doing the same thing with Xbox Series X and S, and in February 2020, Bloomberg reports that the PS5 has a unit cost of $450, but it's likely that it was the cost of goods and not a figure that represents the full cost incurring from manufacturing, packaging, delivering the cost through retail chains. While Sony claims that it used cheap and eco-friendly packages materials for PS5 because of the environment. This is likely an example of corporation greenwashing. The filmy PS5 box is likely also saving the company a significant amount of money. It points out that Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo won't get any relief of manufacturing costs anytime soon. Some of the most expensive components in the PS5 may actually go up in price. A Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing is experiencing huge demand for its fabrication facility that produces the system on a chip for the PS5. It also makes chips for the Xbox Series S and X, Nintendo Switch, iPhone, Mac M1 Max, and AMD CPU and GPU. Thirst for process is such a high demand that TSMC is reportedly suspending volume pricing for its partner. Now Sony likely has a million of PS5 SoCs already paid for and ready to go, but it also wants to meet consumers' demands for the PS5. It's not going to sit on any components for long. Once it burns through its current stock, Sony will have to go back to TSMC and pay the higher price for the PS5 processors though. Memory prices are also going up, so Sony may have to start paying more for the PS5 GDDR6. Again, this is not a cheap component, and fluctuation in its prices of RAM can be cut deep into margins. Although Sony understands as well that any company that all of this is a cost of doing business, arguably treating hardware as a loss leader is less deterrent to Sony bottom line than ever before. The company spent the PS4 generation establishing a strong digital sale business with services like PS Plus, as well as microtransactions for games like Fortnite. The service-based revenue stream has enabled Sony to avoid the dip in sales that was traditionally during the transition from one hardware generation to the next. Instead, the company is maintaining most of its momentum and it's likely okay with losing money on the PS5 if it means consumers are excited to buy games and subscribe to service. So basically, it seems as though it's sort of like with Microsoft though, it's a mixed bag. On one hand, though, their systems are certainly selling very well. It certainly is doing well. From Microsoft is happy with the Xbox Series S and X, where that's going, and Sony is certainly doing well with the PS5. On the other hand, they're also selling it at a loss, though, and it looks like we could see it could still be a while so some people are able to actually get their hands on one, though. But it looks like a lot of their subscription-based services, PlayStation Plus, or for Microsoft, Game Pass, it certainly is making up for it. So it's a loss, but it doesn't seem to be impacting it big enough in an impact that it hurts Sony in a big way, though. So kind of a mixed bag on their financial report. Hopefully, though, we'll start seeing more PS5s and we'll be able to actually go get one, though, because let's be honest, it is very hard to find one, and especially with all those scalpers and bots out there, just trying to get your hands on a PS5 is extremely difficult. So overall, some positive news for Sony. It seems a lot of their first-party games have done very well, and the PS5 certainly is selling very well for Sony. But at the same time, there's no denying the fact that they are taking a hit on every PS5 that they sold, though. Although there are certainly some areas that are making up for that, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4. And this one, I want to give my thoughts on the demo, or at least the Switch version of Balan, B-A-L-A-N, Wonderworld. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, I want to give you my thoughts on the demo that has just been released called Balan, B-A-L-A-N, Wonderworld, the new game from the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog. That's going to be released from Square Enix, though. Now, when people think of the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, they know that that's what he's famous for, creating, the iconic Sega's mascot, though. But he's also developed games outside of that, whether it's games like the cult favorite Nights into Dreams, and then somewhat of a sequel, Journey into Dreams, that was released on the Nintendo Wii back in 2007, to games like Billy Hatchet and the Giant Egg, which I wouldn't mind if they do a remake or a remaster of that one. If that would have happened, I would be okay with that, though. But after years working in with Sega, though, he went and basically did like his own studios to basically starting to work for Square Enix, and this was one of his first projects, Balan Wonderworld, though, which is basically a 3D platform and all. And based on my time on the Nintendo Switch version, I would say I'm kind of mixed on this one to a certain degree, though. On one hand, though, I think the game's visuals and music look pretty good, look very good. Music sounds really great, though. Visually, it's not terrible on the Nintendo Switch or anything like that, but obviously it's not going to look good at what you're going to see on the PS4 or the PS5 or the Xbox One or Series S and X or on PC and all that stuff. But to me, it gets the job done. Nevertheless, there are some like things don't pop up on the screen until you get like closer and all that, like field of vision or something like that. So that's the case, though. But the best way to sum up is that it's a 3D platform, though. Very 3D platform, though. There are enemies, you jump on them and so forth, though. But I'm just not feeling it as much, though, in terms of the platforming part. The costumes, though, look kind of interesting, though, because you do basically each level you have access to like 3 costumes, though. One level I had access to like a sheep costume where your character can like float in midair to a little bit. Other times you can turn into a gear which you can use to solve certain puzzles in the game, or basically as a werewolf and all that stuff, though. Visually, though, the game looks like a cross between the Night series, Nights into Dreams, especially with some of the character designs, and of course something out of Kingdom Hearts in a way, though. You also have sort of this hat mask character, I think Ballin or something like that. I apologize for not saying it correctly, where there are certain levels where you basically do play him for a bit, and it's sort of like a quick time one. You hit the B button at the right time to do like a special move and all that, sort of like a bit of a rhythm game and all that stuff. And most of it is sort of like a collectathon kind of approach, where you basically are collecting gems and all that stuff to feed certainly these little creatures and all that stuff. The platforming is okay. It's not perfect or anything like that. You don't have like a double jump or anything like that, so it can be tricky at times. There are certain enemies based in the demo, though. You do jump on them and all that stuff, but don't expect it to be as solid as you would see like in a 3D Mario game or anything like that, though. I will say the visual, like I said before, the visuals and the art style look alright and all that stuff. Look fine and all. As far as performance on the Nintendo Switch, I would say for the most part, I've seen the game pretty much looks like it runs at 30 frames per second, and it ran fine based on my time with the game, though. There are occasions where I saw the frame rate maybe dip just a little bit, but not enough that made the game unplayable, at least for me and all that stuff. I just have to say that based on my time with this game, though, it feels like this is one of those, might be one of those like bargain bin type of a game. I'm just not feeling it as much. I'm very mixed on it, though. Like I said, visually it looks nice. I like the music in the game, though. The gameplay isn't necessarily bad, but it's not as solid as, say, what a 3D Mario game is, to be exact. Especially when you have to jump on top of some of the enemies and all that stuff. I like the costumes and all. They're very interesting how you integrate some of them, especially to get around the levels and all that stuff. But it's just the platforming is just okay. So to me, I'm very mixed on this game, though. It's possible the game could look different when the final version comes out, but right now my impression is not really on the level of I must buy this game or anything like that. This is more on the level of I might wait until sales come out before picking this game up, though. It is really a shame, though, because it looks interesting and it could be maybe a good platformer, but it just feels like you feel like they could have done more with it, though. Is it possible there could be changes by the time the final version comes out? Of course, there is always that possibility, but right now, based on my time with the demo, particularly on the Switch version, which ran fine with me though, nothing really made the game unplayable for me playing it on the Nintendo Switch. I would say it's like I said, it's a mixed bag for me though. It just feels there's so much more they could do with this game though. So I would say for now, it feels like one of those, you probably want to wait for a sale before you decide to pick it up though. So I'll keep an eye on this title, but right now it's not high on my list of games I want to get, especially for the Nintendo Switch and all. And of course, if you're interested in any gameplay footage of me playing the demo, I'll have a link in the description down below though. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Nintendo's financial report? Are you happy to see the Nintendo Switch is doing very well for Nintendo and all that stuff? Do you think this puts the brakes on any attempt for them to do a Switch Pro or a Switch 2? Or do you expect that we'll hear something like a Switch Pro or Switch 2 at some point down the road? Maybe sometime this year, maybe next year or so forth? What are your thoughts about Google Stadia shutting down their first-party development team and all that? Do you think this is a sign that this means this is the end for Google Stadia? Or do you think some people believe that, or do you believe that some people are blowing it way out of proportion and you don't believe that Google is going to kill Stadia at all? What are your thoughts about Sony's financial report and all that stuff? Are you pleased to see the PS5 is doing very well? Are you a little disappointed to see that they're selling it at a loss and all that stuff? Do you think that Sony will be able to produce more PS5s and make it easier to buy than trying to deal with those bots or scalpers out there? And what are your thoughts about Balan Wonderworld, if I'm saying the name correctly? Have you tried the demo out? If so, which version did you try the demo on though? Do you think this game has potential? Do you think they can make some improvement on it? Did this sell you on getting the game, or are you not sold on it yet? Are you planning to pick it up or not? And if you are you going to pick it up at day one when it comes out, or do you plan to wait for maybe a sale or when it hits bargain bin before you decide to pick this one up? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!